The evening was quiet in the small town of Ridgewood, Pennsylvania. Traffic had thinned along Maple Street, and most of the nearby shops had already closed for the night. At the corner of the street stood a modest garage with a faded sign that read, Carter's Auto Repair. Inside the shop, Mike Carter slid out from under a pickup truck and wiped grease from his hands with an old red shop rag. The garage smelled of motor oil and metal. A small radio on a shelf played a distant country station while tools hung neatly along the wall, most of them older than Mike himself. The place wasn't fancy. The paint on the walls had started to peel, and some of the equipment had seen better days. But to Mike, it was home. His father had opened the shop 40 years earlier. Mike had grown up sweeping the floors, handing over wrenches, and watching his dad bring broken cars back to life. Before he passed away, his father left Mike with one piece of advice that stuck with him through the years. Cars are easy to fix, or his father used to say. It's people that are complicated. Just make sure when folks leave here, they're safe. Mike built his life around that rule. Even when business was slow, even when bills piled up on the kitchen table, even when he wondered how long the shop could stay open. That night, he was getting ready to close when a pair of headlights swept across the garage door. A black Cadillac Escalade rolled slowly into the parking lot. Mike frowned slightly. Cars like that rarely stopped in Ridgewood. Two men stepped out. Their coats looked expensive, and their polished shoes didn't belong anywhere near an oil-stained garage floor. The taller one walked into the shop and glanced around as if inspecting the place. "You Mike Carter?" he asked. "Depends who's asking," Mike replied calmly. The man walked to the workbench and placed a thick envelope on it. It landed with a heavy thump. Mike stared at it. Even without opening it, he knew it was filled with money. "We need a small job done," the man said. Mike leaned back against the tool cabinet. "What kind of job?" "Tomorrow morning," the man continued, "a gray Tesla Model S will come here for a brake inspection." Mike nodded slowly. "Okay." The second man stepped closer. "We want you to loosen the brake line." The words hung in the air. Mike straightened up. "You mean sabotage it?" The tall man shrugged casually. "Call it whatever you want." Mike glanced at the envelope again. It looked thick, packed tight with cash. "How much?" when he asked. $50,000. For a moment, Mike's mind raced. $50,000 could change everything. He could finally fix the leaking roof, replace the worn-out equipment, pay off the shop's mortgage, maybe even take a break for the first time in years. But then another image appeared in his mind. A car speeding down the highway, a driver pressing the brakes. Nothing happening. Panic. Screeching tires. A crash. Mike slowly pushed the envelope back across the workbench. "No!" The two men stared at him. "You didn't even think about it," the tall one said. "I did," Mike replied, "and the answer's still no." "You're turning down $50,000. Mike shrugged. "I'm turning down murder." The second man leaned forward slightly. "Nobody would ever know." Mike folded his arms and met his gaze. "I would." Silence filled the garage. Finally, the tall man grabbed the envelope and slipped it back into his coat. "You're making a mistake," he said coldly. Mike nodded toward the door. "Garage is closed." The men walked out without another word. Their Escalade pulled out of the lot and disappeared down the street. Mike stood there for a moment, thinking about what had just happened. Something about the situation made him uneasy, but eventually he turned off the lights and locked up for the night. The next morning started like any other. At around 9:15 a.m., a gray Tesla Model S rolled slowly into the garage. Mike felt his chest tighten. The license plate matched exactly what the men had described. The driver stepped out. He looked to be in his late 50s with silver hair and a calm, friendly expression. "Morning," the man said. "Just wanted to get the brakes checked before a long drive." Mike forced a polite smile. "Sure thing." He lifted the car and began inspecting the brake system. Within minutes, his stomach dropped. One of the brake lines had a tiny slice in it. It was subtle, small enough that many mechanics might have missed it. But Mike knew exactly what it meant. Under pressure, the line would burst. The brakes would fail completely. Mike stared at the damaged line for a long moment. Someone had already sabotaged the car. If he had accepted the envelope the night before, he might have simply finished the job without noticing anything strange, and the driver would have died. Mike replaced the entire brake line immediately. New fittings, new fluid. He checked the system twice to make sure everything worked perfectly. When the driver returned, Mike showed him the damaged line. "You're lucky you came in," Mike said. The man looked confused. "Why?" Mike held up the damaged part. "If you'd gotten on the highway like this, your brakes would have failed." The man's face went pale. "You're serious?" Mike nodded. "You probably just saved my life," the man said quietly. Mike shrugged. "Just doing my job." The man extended his hand. "Daniel Whitmore." "Mike Carter." Whitmore thanked him again, paid the bill, and drove away. Mike watched the Tesla disappear down Maple Street, wondering who the man really was. 2 weeks later, 3 black SUVs pulled into the garage. Mike stepped outside cautiously. Several men in suits climbed out of the vehicles. One approached him with a polite smile. "Mike Carter?" "Yeah." "Someone would like to thank you." The back door of one SUV opened, and out stepped Daniel Whitmore. This time he wasn't alone. Security guards stood nearby. Mike blinked in surprise. Whitmore walked up and shook his hand again. "Good to see you, Mike." "I feel like I'm missing something here," Mike admitted. Whitmore laughed softly. "I'm the CEO of Whitmore Logistics," he explained, "one of the largest freight companies in the country." Mike's eyebrows lifted. Whitmore continued. "Recently, some competitors decided it might be good for business if I disappeared." Mike immediately thought about the 2 men who had visited his shop. Whitmore studied him carefully. "They offered you money to sabotage my car, didn't they?" Mike nodded slowly. Whitmore smiled. "And you refused." "Seemed like the right thing to do." Whitmore reached into his coat and handed Mike a folder. Mike opened it. Inside were blueprints for a large auto service facility. "I've been searching for someone honest to manage maintenance for my company's entire vehicle fleet," Whitmore said. "Thousands of vehicles." Mike looked up in disbelief. Whitmore extended his hand again. "And I trust the mechanic who refused $50,000 to protect a stranger." Weeks later, Mike would learn something that gave him chills. The accident that was planned for Daniel Whitmore was supposed to happen on a busy highway at nearly 70 miles per hour. If Mike had accepted that envelope, there wouldn't have been a second chance. But sometimes the smallest decisions, the quiet ones made when nobody is watching, can change the course of someone else's life forever. And sometimes those decisions come back to change your own life too. A year later, a brand new building stood on Maple Street where the old garage once was. Bright lights, modern equipment, multiple service bays. The sign outside read, "Carter Automotive Fleet Services." Inside, young mechanics worked under Mike's guidance, and whenever someone asked how he built such a successful business, Mike would smile, wipe his hands on that same old red shop rag, and say quietly, "Sometimes the most important repair you'll ever make isn't on a car." He would pause. "It's the choices you make when nobody's watching." The end. If you like stories like this, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, like, comment, and share.